All right, guys. Welcome everybody to the Chulent night. I hope everybody's enjoying the Chulent. It's really good this week, actually. It's good. And I want to share with you a beautiful piece of Torah tonight that's going to help us all in our life, and it's going to be very beneficial for everybody. And it's gonna hopefully get us sensitized for Pesach. That's going to be coming up. So let's try to see. Let's try to break down. All right. So this week's parasha is Parashat Vayikrah. Now we all know in Parashat Vayikrah, that there's a small aleph. It says Vayikra. How does it start? It starts with the words like this. The pasuk says like this: Vayikra el Moshe vayidaber Hashem elav me'oel moed lemo. It says Hashem. It says that Vayikra, and he called to Moshe, and then it says vayidaber Hashem elav, and Hashem spoke to Moshe me'oel moed, from the oel moed. Okay. Pas l'oel moed, mais l'oel moed. That means that was the place, the tent of where they would meet. Moed is the meeting point, like we have a moed. What do we call chol moed, right? Chol moed. What's moed? Moadim. C'est quoi les moadim? Moadim le simcha. What do we say? It's moed. It means it's a time of meeting with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu 3 times a year. B'shalosh regalim. Yeah, every year we have 3 times that we meet with Hashem. We have a mitzvah to go to the Beit HaMikdash 3 times a year, and to make a special korban riyah, a special korban chagiga, 2 korbans that we used to make in order to greet Hashem, in order to thank Hashem, to meet Him. So that's moed. Moed means it's a place. Bet vad. Liyu betecha bet vad lachachamim. What does it mean, a vad? A vad means it should be a meeting point. Your house should always be a meeting point for chachamim. Chachamim say, just on the side note, why is it important that your home should be a place of meeting point for chachamim? Why is it important? So that you should be able to learn from from the way that they act, from their behavior, from their divrei chokhmah. So if you always have leolam, it should always be your house bet vad lachachamim. It should always be a place where the chachamim are comfortable. Why? Because when they're comfortable, obviously a person opens up when he's comfortable. If a person is comfortable, it doesn't open up. But when a person feels comfortable, so now, we're going to go to this man's house. He always greets us very nicely, and they feel comfortable. Now you can really enjoy from him. But if your house is, sometimes there's chachamim. Chachamim in general, the Pirkei says that in order to receive chokhmah, you have to be silent. Why? Because the second you speak, we know who you are. Maybe you say something stupid, something smart. But when you're quiet, nobody knows. Maybe this guy's smart, maybe he's not. But 1 second you open your mouth, know that we got you. We know who you are. If you're intelligent or not. But if you're silent, it's always the best bet. You understand? Okay. So the point is that when you want the chachamim to hear them, they have to be comfortable. So that's why your house should be a place for chachamim. That's a side note. But the important part is, why does it say Vayikra with a small aleph? If you recognize that in the Vayikra, in the word that he called, it says at the end, Vayikra has an aleph at the end. It's a small one. Anybody know why? It means usually you write words in the Torah, they're all the same size. In the Torah, the scroll.
The aleph is smaller than the letter before.
Yeah, it's a small one. It's a small one. No, Aaron, why is it the letter small in Vayikra? Why do you think it's small? Anybody heard ever a reason why it's small?
What's the original question? Like, what's the context behind it?
The context behind it is Hashem called to Moshe.
Okay.
And it was the time right after there was the finish of the building of the Mishkan, and Hashem called to Moshe. It was not yet the Yom HaShmini, the 8th day. It was 8 days upon which they would start the Beit HaMikdash. The Mishkan would start its original operation. Its operation that it was set to be. It was starting from the 8th day of when it was set. But 8 days before, Moshe Rabbeinu was the only one that was in contact with Hashem. There was no Aaron HaKohen, there was no Kohanim, there was no Levim. It was just Moshe Rabbeinu. He was doing everything. He was doing the avodah of Aaron HaKohen. He was doing the avodah of everything. Only Moshe Rabbeinu. He was Kohen Gadol. Moshe Rabbeinu was Kohen Gadol for 7 days. The 8th day, Hashem said, you didn't want to come to me. When I said, go take out the Jewish people from Mitzrayim, you said no? Me too now. I say no.
But that's why he became a Levi.
But he became a Levi, but he could have been Kohen Gadol. He could have had everything. However, when Moshe Rabbeinu said, "No, my brother, you should choose him," he says, "Don't worry. Okay, you're worried about him. You were supposed to get the Kiruna Gedola. You were supposed to become Kohen Gadol. Now you said your brother. Okay, your brother's going to receive the Kohen Gadol, but you're not." But you got it. The point is that Moshe Rabbeinu was working for 7 days. 7 days. He's going to be all prepared. It's called the Shiva Yemei Miluim, the days of when they're in training. And then finally, Hashem says, Moshe Rabbeinu, now take a break. It's going to be Aaron's turn. So the point is that I'm trying to bring out is what happened. Why is Vayikra, when Hashem called to Moshe, why is there a small aleph? That's number one. Number two, if you look at the previous week's parasha, in Parashat Pekudei, means that right now we're starting Sefer Vayikra. You guys know we're transitioning big Sefarim. Sorry. Yeah. We're transitioning Sefarim. We went from Shemot to Vayikra. And in Shemot, in the last parasha of Sefer Shemot, the book of Shemot, it says that Ukvod Hashem Maleh et HaMishkan. And the entire Kavod of Hashem, the cloud, the Shekhinah, was covering the Mishkan. And since it was covering the Mishkan, that's why this week's parasha starts with Vayikra, says the Kli Yakar, or it was much, I think it was a Sforno, I think. He says the reason why is because Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't come in. Couldn't come into the Mishkan. Why? Because there was a Shekhinah Mamash. There's no communication. There's no verbal communication. When the Shekhinah comes down, there's no verbal communication. And then after the Shekhinah came down, it went to the Kodesh HaKodashim, where Hashem would speak Miben HaKeruvim, from between the Keruvim, and from that spot, Moshe Rabbeinu would hear in the Ol Moed, which was the place that they would meet. But until that happened, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't speak with Hashem verbally. There was just that Hashem covered the Mishkan with his the Shekhinah, the Shekhinah, the Nuad, the Kavod, whatever you want to call it. The point is that it came down, and that was the moment. There was no verbal communication. It was ultimate connection. That's the point. And then this week's parasha, Hashem says, "Oh, Vayikra El Moshe," and it was called to Moshe. It doesn't say Vayikra Hashem El Moshe. It says it was called to Moshe. Why? It's another interesting point. But the point is that Hashem called to Moshe. Now, why is there a small aleph? Because Bil'am, we spoke about Bil'am just, while we were speaking over here. But Bil'am HaRasha, he got the lashon of Nevuah. The way that Hashem addressed himself to Bil'am was Vayikar. Vayikar El Bil'am. That means what? Vayikar Kerut. It means that it was called. It was derech mikre. Mikre means coincidentally. Hashem didn't meet with Bilam saying, "Okay, Bilam, get ready. You have to go through weeks and weeks of preparation. You start becoming a tzaddik. You have to start not eating and all that." No. It was just coincidental. Okay, Hashem comes, he speaks to Bilam, and he tells him the nivuah, and he goes on. And Moshe Rabbeinu also had this level of nivuah that he didn't have to prepare himself and be to a level of where he had to separate himself from the food or anything. Hashem would speak to him like that. Why did Bilam and Moshe have the same level of nivuah? Because the nations of the world were going to say, "What do you mean? We didn't have a navi in our midst. So how can you say that we're not supposed to receive when Mashiach is going to come? All the Jews are going to be the winners. We're going to be there, and the goyim are going to say, wait, but we're also part of the winning team. We're going to say, what do you mean? You guys didn't do mitzvot? He said, yeah, but we didn't have a navi like Moshe. So Hashem gave them Bilam. He said, you know what? I'll give you Bilam. You have the same level, and let's see how you're going to see. So I guess you don't come to me at the times of Mashiach and say, wait, but I didn't know, but this. No, Bilam, you know what happened? I'll tell you a midrash. I'll tell you a midrash that happened by Matan Torah. By Matan Torah, listen to this. I said this over last week or a few weeks ago. But by Matan Torah, what happened is that the whole entire world was shaking. The entire world was shaking, and it was mamash confusing for the entire world. So they were like, "Who's our Navi?" Bilam. Bilam knows the ins and outs of God. So they went to Bilam and they asked him, "Bilam, what's going on? The world, it looks like it's going to get destroyed." But when it comes to Matan Torah, because it was loud, it was a crazy thing. And Bilam, what did he answer? Guys, don't worry. Hashem's giving the Torah to Klal Yisrael. That's what's happening. And what happened? They didn't become. Who came? One guy, Yitro. He came to become Jewish, but no one else. What do you mean? You mean everybody hears Matan Torah? The world's about to be destroyed. Bilam says, guys, it's Matan Torah. Hashem's giving the Torah to the Jews. What do they go? Okay, fine, no problem. Let's go back to our, let's go back to the 212, 514, 438. What do you want? That's. Oh, it's a fool. But at the end of the day, look, we gave you Bilam. He told you exactly what's happening in Matan Torah. You didn't come running without your shoes. Because he was in the middle of. Anyway, the point is that c'est bizarre. So the point is that why? Because Vayikar. That's why we have to take off the aleph. The aleph means that when we put the aleph small, it means that Moshe Rabbeinu received the same level of nevuah as, well, we're going to say the same as Bilam, in the sense that he was so connected with Hashem that he didn't have to need any preparation to speak to him. He just spoke to him even without preparation, because he was the one that was the most needed. He had to constantly be telling the Jews what to do and this and that. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was constant connection with Hashem. So why does it say Vayikra? Just to take away. You have to take away this Vayikar. What's Vayikar? The coincidentalness. That means that Chaz v'Shalom, to say that Vayikar, which means Mikre, which means Keri, which means Tumah, Bal Keri, you guys know what's about Keri, right? Yeah. Someone that sees emission. So that's Lashon of Tumah.
But it doesn't exist.
And the point is, we'll speak about it. We'll speak about that another time. But the point is that it's a Lashon Tumah. But Vayikra is a Lashon Chiba. When Hashem calls someone with Vayikra, it means I call you. It means that I love you. It means that I'm saying, hey, you, come. You, specifically. That's why it says, Vayikra el Moshe. And he called to who? Vayidaber elav. It says again that Hashem spoke to Moshe, elav. Not to Lo. Not to Moshe, meaning to speak to the Bnei Israel. However, elav. The dibur was specifically to him. And all this why? Because the Aleph, which is the Anochi, the me, the Aleph, which is the me in the person, he made himself small. When Moshe Rabbeinu, he was the Ana Mikol Adam, he was the most humble. Since he made himself small, so therefore, he was able to receive this special connection, which had nobody in the world was ever able to have and will ever be able to have. Why? Because of this Anivut. Now, it's not simple to become an Anav. I'll tell you the truth. An Anav is not always someone that's humble. So someone that's humble is not doesn't mean he comes and he speaks nicely. It for sure means that he comes, he speaks nicely. He's always he's nice with the people. It for sure means that. But Anav also means that when you're in a situation where you're being attacked by someone. When you're in a situation where you want to react in a way that's arrogant, you want to say, whoa, let me show him who's boss. Let me show him this. When you have that fight, the Anav, the humble, means you know how to treat that situation in the best way. By, of course, protecting yourself, but not hurting someone else. You have to be able to know exactly the middle. And we spoke about this last week in Parashat Vayikrah-The. In that when Moshe Rabbeinu was counting the money, what did we say in the Midrash? The Midrash says that when there was a person, that what happened, the Erev Rav, they went to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, wait, Moshe Rabbeinu, how do you get so rich? Overnight? What do you mean? All the Truma, all the donations that they give to the Mishkan, that's how Moshe Rabbeinu became rich, huh? So they went to Moshe Rabbeinu and say, wait, where you get all this money? And they didn't know that Moshe Rabbeinu became very rich because he was a really amazing jeweler. Why? Because he got the luchot. The luchot were made out of the most rare marble that you can have. And Moshe Rabbeinu, when he carved out the luchot, he received the extra carving. When you carve, there's a piece that comes out. You have it. And that psolecha, that extra, was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. Hashem said, psolecha, it should be to you. The sharings of the luchot should be to you. And that's how Moshe Rabbeinu got rich. But the Erev Rav, what did they come and do? And they said, 1 second, Moshe Rabbeinu, how can he become rich? Where did he get the money from? And wait, Moshe Rabbeinu is the one that went to Har Sinai. He's the one that didn't eat for 40 days. While you guys were doing the Egel, he was the one that was not eating. How can that be? How can it be? How can it be that they come with these ta'anot, with these claims to Moshe Rabbeinu? And Moshe Rabbeinu, how does he react? There's an entire parasha telling us how Moshe Rabbeinu reacts. An entire parasha. An entire parasha is concentrated on just saying how Moshe Rabbeinu went and he counted every single last dollar that came in as a donation, and by telling us what every single dollar was used to make. The gold, the silver, the copper, everything was counted and said, oh, the copper went to this, the silver went to that, and the gold went to that, and so on and so forth. And that's why you have Vayikra. Hashem says Moshe. Now, the important part to know in all this is that there's moments in life. There's moments in life of where we have to go through in order to become bigger humans, in order to become better. But there's moments in life that are before that. The moments in life that are before that are in the end of Parashat Vayikrah-The, when it says, "Chvod Hashem maleh et hamishkan," which means what? That the kavod of Hashem, the Anan kavod, is residing inside the Mishkan. Yeah? The Anan of Hashem is residing, and there's no communication, there's no verbal communication, there's just approval. There's ultimate approval. Listen to this carefully, guys. There's ultimate approval. Hashem is here regardless, no matter what. And you see that. When you're a kid, you're growing up, everything's good, everything's fun. You don't have to suffer, you don't have to think about how you're going to get your parnasah. Your father's taking care of everything. You got your nice car, you're making money, you're making banks. But after that, once you have to leave that comfort zone, when you have to leave your comfort zone, Habibi, you have to go into the real life. And what happens? Life hits, and you have to work through every single point. And this guy treats you, and this guy hits you, and this guy smacks you down, and now you have to work. And that's the. I don't know if anybody has to go through. I went through anything, but everything's obviously a message. But the point is, the ultimate message is always to go through that point and to work back, and to know that Hashem constantly, He always loved you. Why? Because you saw. He gave you 16 years of love. Now He's going to give you 1 year of hell. It's not for no reason. Because imagine you stayed your entire life with this, Hashem, everything's good. You're the most popular guy. Everybody loves you. You're having a good time. Imagine you stayed like that your whole life. What's going to be? Like you feel like you're receiving your entire life. It doesn't feel good. But when Hashem makes you work for your sachar, when Hashem makes you work for your reward, when Hashem says, okay, now you have to work for your money, and then you're going to feel good about the money that comes in, you're going to be able to think, wow, this is my car, I worked for it, and I put my investment into it. That's the beauty. So there's the stage of where Hashem loves you regardless. There's the stage where you have to work, and that stage will bring you to ultimate satisfaction. But the only way to get to the satisfaction is if you accept what happened in between. If you don't accept what happened, and how do you accept? It's by becoming an anav. And no matter what's the anav, the situation of the anav? What's the situation of the anav? The situation of the anav is no matter what, even if it's an attack from someone that's lower than you, and he's coming and he's putting your kavod at risk, there's always a way to react, to make it clean. And it's never by putting the other person down. Because what did you learn from Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu said, okay, so he accused me of lying. He accused me of stealing money. Okay, so I'll show him. I'll count every single last dollar. There's a logical way of doing things, and it works better than the other. But that's just a test. Hashem puts you through these tests in order to eventually get to the goal. But there's another point that we have to know in order to get to Pesach. The only reason why the Bnei Israel were able to be released from Mitzrayim was one thing. When Paro said Paro met, Paro died. Some say he actually died, some say he had tzarat. And a tzarat, which means leprosy, person that has leprosy is considered dead. And that's when he was bathing in the blood of the Jews. And when that happened, there was a distraction. That was creating a distraction, and there was a kind of a break in the Avodah. There was a kind of break in the... And at that point, the Jews, what did they do? They prayed to Hashem. And now how did this prayer come? How did this prayer come about? It's because they had time to think. That means that Paro knew exactly the message of what it means to become a slave, and that the slave will never be able to leave Mitzrayim. It was said that no slave ever left Mitzrayim. The way that Paro knew how to do it, by the way, which is pretty scary. I saw a video on ChatGPT. Listen to this. Something crazy. Then somebody asked ChatGPT, what would you do? Somebody asked ChatGPT, there's a video going on on YouTube, just check it out. There's a video going around. I'll show it to you another time or whatever soon. Okay, I'll say it. It says, the guy asked ChatGPT, what would you do if you wanted to remove people from God and they wouldn't realize? How would you, they asked the AI, what would you do if you wanted to remove people from God without them realizing?
them well.
So he said like this.
Good, like if they're at home,
No.
so they forget Hashem, and then they
No.
pray
So what did he
good
say? He said, I would distract them. I would distract them. I would make them. I would. Anyways, he goes through.
Guys, 2 minutes.
He goes through a whole list of things. No, just you. Like it goes through. He goes through a list, but the basic point is exactly what Parod did. And this is what Mesilat Yesharim said. When I heard this, I'm like, this is Mesilat Yesharim. Pashut Mesilat Yesharim. He said, I would distract people, make people not think about themselves. I would make them what they say, and this is what social media does. Social media, you're always on your phone, it's distraction. Never think. Once you're away from your phone, once you're away from your constant addiction, what are you? What did you make yourself from? And when the person is trapped and he's in front of himself, there's ultimate destruction. Because he looks at himself in the inside and he sees, what am I? I'm nothing. I didn't take care of myself. What I've become? I became a phone. You understand? The point is, Paro did the same with the Bnei Israel. What did Paro do? He made them work. He made them work and made them forget through the work that they didn't even have a self. They were completely given up to Paro. And when there was a break in the work, so then they had a time to think, and that time to think, Vayitzaku el Hashem, and they prayed to Hashem. Vaye'anchu me'ashibut, it says Vaye'anchu, and they prayed, they screamed out to Hashem. And that's what saved them. The fact that they had time to think. 1 second. And that's what Mesilat Yesharim says. 1 second. And that's the point. That you're in a situation,
You think before action.
there's a moment where you have to be mitbonen. There's a thought. And that's only if you have the midah. Anava means that you have time to think before you act. Means that instead of reacting with your raw self, instead of acting with your raw self, you put a few thoughts to it and you're going to be saved. And that's how you're going to go to the Geula B'ezrat Hashem. So now that's the point of Pesach. Pesach is a time where we're mitbonen. We have the time to internalize what happened on Nisim. And to get to a level, and when you keep thinking, you eat the matzah, you eat the maror, you think about the shibud. That's not the point to eat the maror. The point is to eat the maror and think, wow, it was so bitter. You eat the matzah, you have a whole 4 minutes of eating the matzah where you're just thinking, wow, just think you're a mitzri. Think you're a Jew in Egypt right now eating your matzah when you're on break. Just think about that. Wow, just gobbling down the matzah. Think about that for a second. Be mitbonen through the simanim that you do. You're gonna feel like chayav adam nirot et atzmo. Everybody is chayav. Everybody has an obligation to see himself like if he left Egypt, and that's the only way to do it with hitbonenut. And that's what's gonna bring the Geula Shlema. You realize that every tzara that came to you, Hashem took you out of it, and it's for your good that He put you into it.